The reading of the most set apart scripture, Genesis through Revelation. The first book of the Torah, Bereshith, also known as Genesis. Chapter 40. And after these events, it came to be that the cupbearer and the baker of the sovereign of Mitzrayim sinned against their master, the sovereign of Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh was wroth with his two officers, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker. So he put them in confinement in the house of the captain of the guard, in the prison, the place where Joseph was a prisoner. And the captain of the guard put Joseph in charge of them, and he served them. So they were in confinement for some time. Then the cupbearer and the baker of the sovereign of Mitzrayim, who were confined in the prison, dreamed a dream. Both of them, each man's dream in one night, and each man's dream with its own interpretation. And Joseph came into them in the morning and looked at them and saw that they were sad. And he asked Pharaoh's officers, who were with him in confinement of his master's house, saying, "Why do you look so sad today?" And they said to him, "We each have dreamed a dream, and there is no one to interpret it." And Joseph said to them, "Do not interpretations belong to Elohim? Relate them to me, please." So the chief cupbearer related his dream to Joseph and said to him, "See, in my dream, a vine was before me, and in the vine were 3 branches, and it was as though it budded. Its blossoms shot forth, and its clusters brought forth ripe grapes. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand. So I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup and placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand." And Joseph said to him, "This is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Yet within 3 days, Pharaoh is going to lift up your head and restore you to your place. And you shall put Pharaoh's cup in his hand according to the former ruling, when you were his cupbearer. But remember me when it is well with you, and please show loving commitment to me, and mention me to Pharaoh, and get me out of this house. For truly I was stolen away from the land of the Hebrews, and also I have done naught that they should put me into the dungeon." And the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, and he said to Joseph, "I also was in my dream and saw 3 white baskets were on my head, and in the uppermost basket all kinds of baked goods for Pharaoh, and the birds ate them out of the basket on my head." Joseph answered and said, "This is the interpretation of it. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet within 3 days, Pharaoh is going to lift off your head from you and hang you on a tree. Then the birds shall eat your flesh from you." And on the 3rd day, Pharaoh's birthday, it came to be that he made a feast, all his servants. And he lifted up the head of the chief cupbearer and of the chief baker among his servants. And he restored the chief cupbearer to his post of cupbearer again. And he placed the cup in Pharaoh's hand, but he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them. And the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgot him. Chapter 41. And it came to be at the end of 2 years' time that Pharaoh had a dream, and saw him standing by the river, and saw 7 cows coming up out of the river, beautiful looking and fat, and they fed amongst the reeds. Then saw 7 other cows coming up after them out of the river, ugly and lean of flesh, and stood by the other cows on the bank of the river. And the ugly and lean of flesh cows ate up the 7 beautiful looking and fat cows. Then Pharaoh awoke. And he slept and dreamed a second time, and saw 7 heads of grain coming up on one stalk, plump and good, and saw 7 lean heads scorched by the east wind coming up after them. And the 7 lean heads swallowed the 7 plump and complete heads. Then Pharaoh awoke and saw it was a dream. And it came to be in the morning that his spirit was moved, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Mitzrayim, and all its wise men. And Pharaoh related to them his dreams, but there was no one who could interpret them for Pharaoh. Then the chief cupbearer spoke to Pharaoh, saying, I remember my crimes this day, when Pharaoh was wroth with his servants, and put me in confinement in the house of the captain of the guard, both me and the chief baker. Each one of us dreamed a dream in one night. He and I, each of us dreamed according to the interpretation of his dream, of his own dream. And there was with us a Hebrew youth, a servant of the captain of the guard. And we related to him, and he interpreted our dreams for us. To each man he interpreted according to his own dream. And it came to be as he interpreted for us. So it came to be he restored me to my office, and he hanged him. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they hurriedly brought him out of the dungeon. And he shaved and changed his garments and came to Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is no one to interpret it. Now I myself have heard it said of you that you understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. Let Elohim answer Pharaoh with peace. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, See, in my dream I stood on the bank of the river, and saw 7 cows coming up out of the river, beautiful looking and fat, and they fed among the reeds. Then saw 7 other cows coming up after them, poor and very ugly and lean of flesh, such ugliness as I have never seen in all the land of Mitzrayim. And the lean of flesh and ugly cows ate up the first 7 fat cows. Yet when they had eaten them up, no one would have known that they had eaten them, for they were as ugly as at the beginning. Then I awoke. Also, I looked in my dream and saw 7 heads coming up on one stalk, coming complete and good. Then saw 7 heads, withered, lean, scorched by the east wind, coming up after them. and the lean head swallowed the 7 good heads. And I spoke to the magicians, but there was no one who could explain it to me. And Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dream of Pharaoh is one. Elohim has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good cows are 7 years, and the 7 good heads are 7 years. It is one dream. And the 7 lean and ugly cows which came up after them are 7 years. And the 7 empty heads scorched by the east wind are 7 years of scarcity of food. This is the word which I spoke to Pharaoh. Elohim has shown Pharaoh what he is about to do. See, 7 years of great plenty are coming in all the land of Mitzrayim, but after them 7 years of scarcity of food shall arise, and all the plenty be forgotten in the land of Mitzrayim. And the scarcity of food shall destroy the land, and the plenty shall not be remembered in the land because of the scarcity of food following, for it is very severe. And the dream was repeated to Pharaoh twice, because the word is established by Elohim, and Elohim is hastening to do it. And now let Pharaoh look for a discerning and wise man, and set him over the land of Mitzrayim. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint overseers over the land, to take up 1/5 of the land of Mitzrayim in the 7 years of plenty, and let them gather all the food of those good years that are coming, and store up grain under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. And the food shall be for a store for the land for the 7 years of scarcity of food, which shall be in the land of Mitzrayim. And do not let the land be cut off by the scarcity of food. And the word was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, could we find another like him? A man in whom is the spirit of Elohim? Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, since Elohim has shown you all this, there is no one as discerning and wise as you. Be over my house, you yourself, and at your mouth all my people shall kiss. Only in the throne I am greater than you. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I have set you over all the land of Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh took his seal ring off his hand and put it on Joseph's hand. And he dressed him in garments of fine linen, and put a gold chain around his neck. And he had him ride in the 2nd chariot which he had. And they cried out before him, bow the knee. And he set him over all the land of Mitzrayim. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without a word from you, let no man lift his hand or foot in all the land of Mitzrayim. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphnath Paneah, and he gave him a wife, Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On. And Joseph went out over all the land of Mitzrayim. Now Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, sovereign of Mitzrayim. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh, and went throughout all the land of Mitzrayim. And in the 7 years of plenty, the ground brought forth generously, and he gathered all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Mitzrayim, and laid up the food in the cities. He laid up in every city the food of the fields which surrounded them. Thus Joseph gathered very much grain, as the sand of the sea, until he ceased counting, for it was without number. And to Joseph were born two sons before the years of scarcity of food came, whom Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, bore to him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for Elohim has made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. And the name of the second he called Ephraim, for Elohim has caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. And the 7 years of plenty which were in the land of Mitzrayim came to an end. And the 7 years of scarcity of food began to come, as Joseph had said, and the scarcity of food was in all lands, but in all the land of Mitzrayim there was bread. But when all the land of Mitzrayim hungered, and the people cried to Pharaoh for bread, Pharaoh said to all the Mitzrites, "Go to Joseph, do whatever he says to you." And the scarcity of food was over all the face of the earth. And Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold to the Mitzrites. And the scarcity of food was severe in the land of Mitzrayim. And all the earth came to Joseph in Mitzrayim to buy grain, because the scarcity of food was severe in all the earth. Chapter 42. And when Jacob saw that there was grain in Mitzrayim, Jacob said to his sons, "Why do you look at each other?" And he said, "See, I have heard that there is grain in Mitzrayim. Go down to that place and buy for us there, and let us live and not die." And Joseph's 10 brothers went down to buy grain in Mitzrayim. But Jacob did not send Joseph's brother Benjamin with his brothers, for he said, "Lest some harm come to him." And the sons of Israel went to buy grain among those who journeyed, for the scarcity of food was in the land of Canaan. And Joseph was the governor over the land. He was the one who sold to all the people of the land. And Joseph's brothers came and bowed down before him with their faces to the earth. And Joseph saw his brothers and recognized them, but he acted as a stranger to them and spoke to them harshly and said to them, "Where do you come from?" And they said, "From the land of Canaan to buy food." So Joseph recognized his brothers, but they did not recognize him. And Joseph remembered the dreams which he had dreamed about them, and said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see the nakedness of the land." And they said to him, "No, no, my master, but your servants have come to buy food. We are all one man's sons. We are trustworthy. Your servants are not spies." But he said to them, "No, but you have come to see the nakedness of the land." And they said, "Your servants are 12 brothers, the sons of one man in the land of Canaan. And see, the youngest is with our father today, and one is no more." And Joseph said to them, "It is as I spoke to you, saying, 'You are spies.' But this you shall be proven by this. You shall be proven by the life of Pharaoh. You do not leave this place unless your youngest brother comes here. Send one of you and let him bring your brother while you are kept in prison. So let your words be proven to see whether there is any truth in you, or else by the life of Pharaoh you are spies. And he put them all together in prison for 3 days. Now Joseph said to them the third day, do this and live, for I fear Elohim. If you are trustworthy, let one of your brothers be confined to your prison house, and you go bring grain for the scarcity of food of your houses, and bring your youngest brother to me, and let your words be confirmed, and you do not die. And so they did. And they said to each other, truly, we are guilty concerning our brother, for we saw the distress of his life when he pleaded with us, yet we did not listen. That is why this distress has come upon us. And Reuben answered them, saying, did I not speak to you, saying, do not sin against the boy? And you would not listen. And see, his blood is now required of us. And they did not know that Joseph understood them, for he spoke to them through an interpreter. And he turned himself away from them and wept, but came back to them and spoke to them. And he took Shimon from them and bound him before their eyes. And Joseph commanded, and they filled their sacks with grain, also to put back every man's silver to his sack, and to give them food for the journey. And thus it was done for them. So they loaded their donkeys with the grain and went from there. And as one of them opened his sack to give his donkey fodder, at the lodging place he saw his silver, for there it was in the mouth of his sack. And he said to his brothers, my silver has been returned, and there it is in my sack. And their hearts sank, and they were afraid, saying to each other, what is this that Elohim has done to us? So they came to Jacob their father in the land of Canaan, and reported to him all that befell them, saying, the man, the master of the land, spoke to us harshly, and took us for spies of the land. But we said to him, we are trustworthy. We are not spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of our father. One is no more, and the youngest is today with our father in the land of Canaan. And the man, the master of the land, said to us, by this I know that you are trustworthy. Leave one of your brothers here with me, and take food for the scarcity of food of your households, and go, and bring your youngest brother to me. Then I know that you are not spies, that you are trustworthy. I give your brother to you, and you move about in the land. And it came to be, as they emptied their sacks, that look, the bundle of each man's silver was in his sack. And when they and their fathers saw the bundles of silver, they were afraid. And Jacob, their father, said to them, you have bereaved me. Joseph is no more, and Shimon is no more, and you would take Benjamin? All this is against me. So Reuben spoke to his father, saying, take the lives of my 2 sons, if I do not bring him back to you. Put him in my hands, and I myself bring him back to you. But he said, My son is not going down with you, for his brother is dead, and he is left alone. If any harm should come to him along the way in which you go, then you would bring down my gray hair with sorrow to Sheol. Chapter 43. But the scarcity of food was severe in the land, and it came to be, when they had eaten up the grain which they had brought from Mitzrayim, that their father said to them, Go back, buy us a little food. But YAHUAH spoke to him, saying, The man vehemently warned us, saying, You do not see my face unless your brother is with you. If you let our brother go with us, we go down and buy you food. But if you do not let him go, we do not go down. Because the man said to us, You do not see my face unless your brother is with you. And Yisrael said, Why did you do evil to me to inform the man that you still had another brother? And they said, The man kept asking about us and our relatives, saying, Is your father still alive? Have you another brother? And we informed him according to these words. How could we know that he would say, Bring your brother down? And YAHUAH said to Yisrael his father, Send the boy with me, and let us arise and go, and live and not die, both we and you, and also our little ones. I myself shall stand guarantee for him. From my hand you are to require him. If I do not bring him back to you and set him before you, then let me bear the blame forever. For if we had not delayed, truly by now we could have returned this second time. And their father, Yisrael, said to them, If so, then do this. Take some of the best fruit of the land in your vessels, and bring a present down for the man, a little balm, and a little honey, spices, and myrrh, nuts, and almonds. And take double silver in your hand, and take back in your hand the silver that was returned in the mouth of your sacks. It could have been a mistake. And take your brother, and arise, go back to the man. And El Shaddai give to you compassion before the man, so that he shall release your other brother and Benjamin. And I, if I am bereaved, I am bereaved. And the men took that present and Benjamin, and they took double the amount of silver in their hand, and arose and went down to Mitzrayim, and stood before Joseph. And Joseph saw Benjamin with them, and said to the one over his house, Bring the men home, and make a great slaughter, and prepare, for these men are to eat with me at noon. And the man did as Joseph said, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house. And the men were afraid because they were brought into Joseph's house. And they said, It is because of the silver which was put back into our sacks the first time that we are brought in, to throw himself upon us and fall upon us, to take us as slaves, our donkeys too. So they came near to the man over the house of Joseph, and spoke to him at the door of the house, and said, O my master, we indeed came down the first time to buy food, but it came to be, when we came to the lodging place, that we opened our sacks and saw each man's silver in the mouth of his sack, our silver in its weight, and we have brought it back in our hand. And we have brought down other silver in our hands to buy food. We do not know who put our silver in our sacks. But he said, Peace be with you. Do not be afraid. Your Elohim and the Elohim of your father has given you treasure in your sacks. Your silver had come to me. And he brought Shimon out to them. And the man brought the men into Joseph's house and gave them water, and they washed their feet. And he gave their donkeys fodder. And they made the present ready for Joseph's coming at noon, for they heard that they were to eat there. And when Joseph came home, they brought him present, which was in their hand, into the house, and bowed down before him to the earth. And he asked them about their welfare, and said, Is your father well? The old man of whom you spoke, is he still alive? And they said, Your servant, our father, is in good health. He is still alive. And they bowed their heads down and did obeisance. And he lifted his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, Is this your younger brother of whom you spoke to me? And he said, Elohim show favor to you, my son. And Joseph hurried, for his emotions were deeply moved towards his brother. And he looked for a place to weep, and went into his room and wept there. Then he washed his face and came out, and controlled himself, and said, Serve the food. And they set him a place by himself, and them by themselves, and the Mitzrites who ate with him by themselves. The Mitzrites could not eat food with the Hebrews, for that is an abomination to the Mitzrites. And they sat before him, the firstborn according to his birthright, and the youngest according to his youth. And the men looked at each other in astonishment. And he took portions to them from before him. But Benjamin's portion was 5 times as much as any of theirs. And they feasted and they drank with him. Chapter 44. And he commanded the one over his house, saying, Fill the men's sacks with food, as they are able to bear, and put each man's silver in the mouth of his sack, and put my cup, the silver cup, in the mouth of the sack of the youngest, and the silver for his grain. And he did according to the word of Joseph, which he spoke. As soon as the morning was light, the men were sent away, they and their donkeys. And when they had gone out of the city, not having gone far, Joseph said to the one over his house, Rise up, follow the men, and when you overtake them, say to them, Why have you repaid evil for good? Is this not the one from which my master drinks, and with which he indeed divines? You have done evil in what you have done. So he overtook them and spoke these words to them. And they said to him, Why does my master say these words? Far be it from us that your servants should do according to this word. See, we brought back to you from the land of Canaan the silver which was found in the mouth of our sacks. How then should we steal silver or gold from your master's house? With whomever of your servants it is found, he shall die, and we shall become my master's slaves as well. And he said, Now also let it be according to your words. He with whom it is found becomes my slave, and you are innocent. And they hurried each man down, each and they hurried, each man let down his sack to the ground, and each opened his sack. And he searched with the oldest first, and with the youngest last. And the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. And they tore their garments, and each man loaded his donkey and went back to the city. And YAHUAH and his brothers came to Joseph's house, and he was still there. And they fell before him on the ground. And Joseph said to them, What deed is this you have done? Did you not know that a man like me indeed divines? And YAHUAH said, What do we say to my master? What do we speak? Or how do we clear ourselves? Elohim has found out the crookedness of your servants. See, we are my master's slaves, both we and he also with whom the cup was found. But he said, Far be it from me to do this. The man in whose hand the cup was found, he becomes my slave, and you go up in peace to your father, to your father. And YAHUAH came near to him and said, Oh, my master, please let your servant speak a word in my master's hearing, and do not let your displeasure burn against your servant, for you are like Pharaoh. My master asked his servants, saying, Have you a father or a brother? And we said to my master, We have a father, an old man, and a young child of his old age, and his brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother's children, and his father loves him. And you said to your servants, Bring him down to me, and let me set my eyes on him. And we said to my master, The boy is not able to leave his father, for if he leaves his father shall die. But you said to your servants, Unless your youngest brother comes down with you, you do not see my face again. And it came to be, when we went up to your servant my father, that we told him the words of my master. And our father said, Go back and buy us a little food. But we said, We are not able to go down. If our youngest brother is with us, then we shall go down. For we are not able to see the man's face unless our youngest brother is with us. Then your servant my father said to us, You know that my wife bore me 2 sons, and the one went out from me. And I said, Truly, he is torn to pieces, and I have not seen him since. And if you take this one from me too, and harm comes to him, you shall bring down my gray hair with evil to Sheol. And now, if I come to your servant my father, and the boy is not with us, since his own life is bound up in his life, then it shall be, when he sees that the boy is not with us, that he shall die. So your servants shall bring down the gray hair of your servant our father with evil to Sheol. For your servant went guarantee for the boy to my father, saying, If I do not bring him back to you, then I shall be a sinner before my father forever. And now, please, let your servant remain instead of the boy as a slave to my master, and let the boy go up with his brothers. For how do I go up to my father if the boy's not with me, lest I see the evil that would come upon my father? Chapter 45. And Joseph was unable to restrain himself before all those who stood by him. And he called out, "Have everyone go out from me." So no one stood with him while Joseph made himself known to his brothers. And he wept aloud, and the Mitzrites and the house of Pharaoh heard it. And Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" But his brothers were unable to answer him, for they trembled before him. Then Joseph said to his brothers, "Please come near to me." And when they came near, he said, "I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into Mitzrayim. And now do not be grieved nor displeased with yourselves because you sold me here. For Elohim sent me before you to preserve life. For 2 years now, the scarcity of food has been in the land, and there are still 5 years in which there is neither plowing nor harvesting. And Elohim sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant in the earth and to give life to you by a great escape. So then, you did not send me here, but Elohim. And he has set me for a father to Pharaoh, and master of all his house, and a ruler throughout all the land of Mitzrayim. Hurry and go up to my father, and say to him, Thus says your son Joseph, Elohim has made me master of all Mitzrayim. Come down to me, do not delay. And you shall dwell in the land of Goshen, and be there, and be near to me, you and your children, your children's children, your flocks and your herds, and all that you have. And I shall provide for you there, lest you and your household and all that you have come to poverty, because 5 years of scarcity of food are still to come. And look, your eyes and the eyes of my brother Benjamin see that it is my mouth that speaks to you. And you shall inform my father of all my esteem in Mitzrayim, and of all that you have seen, and you shall hurry and bring my father down here. And he fell on his brother Benjamin's neck and wept. And Benjamin wept on his neck. And he kissed all his brothers and wept over them. And after that, his brothers spoke with him. And the report of it was heard by the house of Pharaoh, saying, The brothers of Joseph have come. And it was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of his servants. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, Say to your brothers, Do this, load your beast, and go enter the land of Canaan, and take your father and your household, and come to me. And I give you the best of the land of Mitzrayim. And you have been commanded, do this, take wagons out of the land of Mitzrayim for your little ones, and your wives, and you shall bring your father and come. And do not be concerned about your goods, for the best of all the land of Mitzrayim is yours. And the sons of Yisrael did so, and Joseph gave them wagons according to the mouth of Pharaoh, and he gave them food for the journey. He gave to all of them, to each man, changes of garments, but to Benjamin he gave 300 pieces of silver and 5 changes of garments. And he sent to his father this 10 donkeys loaded with the best of Mitzrayim, and 10 female donkeys loaded with grain, and bread, and food for his father for the journey. So he sent his brothers away, and they left. And he said to them, do not quarrel along the way. And they went up out of Mitzrayim, and came to the land of Canaan, to Jacob their father. And they told him, saying, Joseph is still alive, and he is governor over all the land of Mitzrayim. And Jacob's heart ceased, for he did not believe them. But when they spoke to him, and all the words which Joseph had spoken to them, and when he saw the wagons which Joseph had sent to transport him, the spirit of Jacob their father revived. And Yisrael said, enough, my son Joseph is still alive. Let me go and see him before I die. Chapter 46. And Yisrael set out with all that he had, and he came to Beersheba, and slaughterings to the Elohim of his father Yishak. And Elohim spoke to Yisrael in the visions of the night, and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, here I am. And he said, I am the Elohim of your father. Do not be afraid to go down to Mitzrayim, for I shall make you there into a great nation. I myself am going down with you to Mitzrayim, and I myself shall certainly bring you up again, and let Joseph put his hand on your eyes. And Jacob rose up from Beersheba, and the sons of Yisrael brought their father Jacob and their little ones and their wives in the wagons which Pharaoh had sent to transport him. And they took their livestock and their property which they had acquired in the land of Canaan, and came into Mitzrayim, Jacob and all his seed with him, his sons and his sons' sons, his daughters and his sons' daughters, and all his seed he brought with him to Mitzrayim. And these were the names of the children of Yisrael, Jacob and his sons, who came into Mitzrayim. Reuben was Jacob's firstborn. And the sons of Reuben, Hanok, and Palu, and Hetzron, and Carmi. And the sons of Shimon, Yemuel, and Yamin, and Ohad, and Yakin, and Zohar, and Shaul, son of a Canaanite woman. And the sons of Levi, Gershon, Kehath, and Merari. And the sons of Yehuda, and Onan, and Shelah, and Peretz, and Zerah. But and Onan died in the land of Canaan. And the sons of Peretz were Hetzron and Hamel. And the sons of Issachar, Tola and Puah, and Yob and Shimron. And the sons of Zebulun, Sirad and Elon and Yahleel. These were the sons of Leah, whom she bore to Jacob in Padan Aram, with his daughter Dinah. All the beings, his sons and his daughters, were 33. And the sons of Gad, Siphion and Haggai, Shunai and Etzbon, Eri and Arodai, and Eri-Li. And the sons of Asher, Yimnah, and Yishwa, and Yishwai, and Berai, and Sirah, their sister. And the sons of Beriah, Heber, and Melchiel. These were the sons of Zilpah, whom Laban gave to Leah, his daughter, and these she bore to Jacob, 16 beings. The sons of Rahel, Jacob's wife, Joseph and Benjamin. And to Joseph in the land of Mitzrayim were born Manasseh and Ephraim, whom Asenath, daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, bore to him. And the sons of Benjamin, Bela and Becher and Ashbel, Gera and Naaman, Ehi and Rosh, Muppim and Huppim and Ard. These were the sons of Rahel, who were born to Jacob, 14 beings in all. And the son of Dan, Hushim, and the sons of Naphtali, Yatzzel, and Gunai, and Yetzer, and Shillem. These were the sons of Bilhah, whom Laban gave to Rahel, his daughter, and she bore these to Jacob, 7 beings in all. All the beings who went with Jacob to Mitzrayim, who came from his body, besides Jacob's sons' wives, were 66 beings in all. And the sons of Joseph, who were born to him in Mitzrayim, were 2 beings. All the beings of the house of Jacob who went to Mitzrayim were 70. And he sent YAHUAH before him to Joseph, to point out before him the way to Goshen. And they came to the land of Goshen. And Joseph made ready his chariot, and went up to Goshen to meet his father, Yishrael. And he appeared to him, and fell on his neck, and wept on his neck a long time. And Yishrael said to Joseph, "Now let me die, since I have seen your face, that you are still alive." And Joseph said to his brothers and to his father's household, "I am going up to inform Pharaoh, and say to him, my brothers and those of my father's house who were in the land of Canaan have come to me. And the men are shepherds, that they have been men of livestock, and they have brought their flocks and their herds and all that they have. And it shall be when Pharaoh calls you and says, what is your occupation? That you shall say, your servants have been men of livestock from our youth even till now, both we and also our fathers, so that you dwell in the land of Goshen, for every shepherd is an abomination to the Mitzrites."